right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about Packers trade targets in three categories: realistic trade targets, pipe dream scenario targets, and just those targets that are just, hey, man, let it go. It's not going to happen. Today, let's go and get into it. We are going to go for the realistic targets first. I'm a big fan of my first realistic target. His name is Shaquille Barrett, outside linebacker for the Denver Broncos. A former undrafted free agent, really outproduces his draft stock with what he did, or where he was picked, rather. But right now, he came into the season, I do believe, with, I want to say, I think it was 7 sacks and close to like 5 fumbles, I think, or 5 forced fumbles. This year, I think he has 2 sacks. Then again, he's just buried behind a depth chart of Bradley Chubb and some guy named Von Miller. And he's also kind of battling another former first-round pick in Shane Ray, who's coming back from I think a high ankle sprain. I think he's nursing it right now. The only thing that's kind of more beneficial to him is Shane Ray is just he just keeps getting hurt. Another person actually suggested that Shane Ray be a potential target for the Green Bay Packers. We already have a Shane Ray type player in Nick Perry. Not in the same sense that they're the same player, but dependability wise, they're great skill. They each have their own niche skill set. Shane Ray is a powerful player with an amazing first step. Perry has a great first step, but he's just going to knock you off your ass. And I think with Perry, I'm more so I want dependability at this point. Somebody who's going to be in there week in, week out. And when Perry's in there, he produces. But the thing is, that's a big if. So I don't like Shane Ray as a possible trade target. I know you could probably get him on pennies on the dollar right now for probably like a mid to late round pick. But I like Shaquille Barrett, man. I really think he has a lot more to prove. Especially just from being behind Chubb and Miller. It's going to be hard to get your spot work in, especially when you're also, again, battling somebody like a Shane Ray. So let's go ahead and move on. Dante Fowler. I think it's a big buy low scenario. I think that the Jaguars' defense is not imploding in any way, shape, or form. I know there's been talk about there being mutiny in regards to half the team supports Blake Bortles, half the team is just no. And I know that he had a suspension early on in the year, so he's also been struggling to get his time with, just because that D-line's loaded, man. That D-line's loaded, so I think he's another guy that he has tons of potential. I don't think he's really scratched the surface, and I think there's times where he has produced and shown those flashes, but he just needs to get that consistent workload. Let's go on to one of my little favorite, Marcus Golden. Marcus Golden, look at this guy. God, he looks like Atari Bigby almost right there. Atari Bigby, former strong safety for the Green Bay Packers. Marcus Golden is just kind of one of those players that really lights that defense on fire in Arizona. And he's really coming into his own. I think right now he has, I want to say he only has half a sack this year, and I think he has like only a few solo tackles. But last year he was playing lights out. And I know a lot of the Thunder has been, with Chandler Jones and that defense right now. And that defense is just really a shell. They're constantly playing from behind. They're just really trying to support their offense right now, and it's not good. So I think that Marcus Golden would be an optimal trade target, especially to bolster the outside linebacker position. I know I'm spending a lot of time on pass rush, but there's a good reason. I know Patine's defense, though, also calls for a lot of pass rush inside at the inside linebackers and D-line, and so I'm not sure how much of a pertinent issue it is to get great outside linebackers in his position, or in his defense rather. Just because you never know, man. You never know. I think that his defense always calls for more pressure up the gut. Now let's kind of move on to some realistic veteran targets. I might get a little blowback from this one. I really don't think this is, unless something happens on Sunday, something like this would happen, but I'd be all for it. So let's go on and move on to this guy, Mr. Deshaun Jackson. There's not too much else to say aside from the veteran pop of speed and athleticism that you would get at the wide receiver position. I think if Cobb Geronimo goes down again, I think it's highly likely that one of them gets IR'd. I think if it's a minor twinge or tweak, I think that they'll be fine. But if not, who knows? Maybe the legend of Jacob Kumaro and Trevor Davis. Maybe one of them stays on the IR all year. But I do believe that if one of those two guys or both of those guys go down again, or if we have another major casualty at wide receiver, I think we're only a phone call away from somebody like G-Jax, who's openly admitted to being very against being in the offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, along with Mr. Winston at QB. I mean, he likes them, but he's been really adamant on saying, yeah, we're just not on the same page. There's this, there's that. Even when Fitz was having his amazing start, his magical start, he was pretty much he was a huge proponent of saying, hey, man, let's ride the hot hand. Let's keep this guy in. And I think that while we don't need a wide receiver like him, I think if one of those two guys or both those guys go down, I think he'd be invaluable to this offense. One, to give us a legitimate deep threat to tilt the field. Even though he's 31, he can still blaze. But also, it gives a veteran receiver who knows how to run routes, who knows what to do, who knows how to make the catches, who knows how to perform in those big moments. Whereas, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, those guys they haven't dropped the ball. They've been great. Drop the ball, pun intended. They've been great for what they've been doing, but you can see that they're rookies, man. The rookies relying on a supreme skill set more so than actually the skill set of being a football player. And they're learning, and they're coming into their own. They're making huge plays. But I think having that deep threat of that already NFL pro wide receiver, plus, I mean, I don't know how much has stuck around, but I have to imagine there's still some rapport between their playing days, between Rodgers and Deshaun back at Cal. I do believe they played together, along with Marshawn Lynch at one point, too. That would have been a great offense to see. But I think that would be a really potent value. Moving on to another veteran guy, Jerry Hughes, outside linebacker. I know I keep talking about these outside linebackers, but I feel like there needs to be some, even if Patine's defense doesn't scream for him, there needs to be some jolt of him. Jerry Hughes, I do believe he's 30 years old, outside linebacker, defensive end for Buffalo Bills. He's playing for the Bills, so I think they could, you could pretty much give him for pennies on the dollar as well. Had his career year, I do believe, I want to say like in 2013, 2014 or something like that, with the Buffalo Bills, where he registered 9.5 sacks, 10 sacks under Mike Patine when he was with Rex Ryan. And so I think that would be a good ad. I mean, you get a veteran player, a proven guy that if somebody goes down like a Perry or a Clay Matthews, if they can't hold up, you don't have to default to Reggie Gilbert and Kyler Fackrell, just because Reggie Gilbert's an amazing player for being an undrafted free agent. Plus, I mean, he does every little thing right. He relies a lot of times on a one-trick move, which is a out-to-in move. But for what he is, I'm not mad at having Reggie Gilbert. Kyler Fackrell, I think his skill set's being utilized the wrong way. I really want to see what he can do more, not in space, but more, in coverage. You haven't seen that, and apparently that was one of his strong suits coming out of college. But I just, I think there might be a reason why we haven't seen it, but then again, who knows? We didn't see Demarius Randall at free safety, nor Micah Hyde at free safety, and boom, look at them now. But I think Jerry Hughes would add, a tremendous amount of not veteran leadership, but dependability in case one of those two guys of Clay or Perry were to go down. Now let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to call this the pipe dream scenario because you're about to see why with my first selection. Von Miller. Doubt it happens, but then again, who knows? We were in the running for Khalil Mack, and we had a strong enough offer, but apparently, they thought the Bears were going to be just a more potent draft value once they yielded those first round picks. So Von Miller been playing like his hair's on fire this year. I mean, I'm always amazed at the amount of bend that he gets. It's one of the guy coming out of what's his name? I can't remember his name. The defensive end outside linebacker coming out of Boston College this year. That Vince Young completely butchered his name. I can't remember his name. I'll remember later. I just remember Vince said Honor instead of his actual name, which is not even close to Honor. God bless him. But he just has an unnatural bend. He can literally, I think somebody said it best, he can sprint underneath the dinner table. And he can do so at a right angle, just rounding that corner. And it's been really fun to watch him. And I think that, I say it's a pipe dream, one, because it's Von freaking Miller. But two, I think that the Broncos aren't yet in a scenario where I think they're ready to tap out and say, all right, just ship them off and let's get some picks. I think they're ready to still win now. And it's a big telling aspect of that's going to be if Demarius Randall, or not Demarius Randall, sorry, Demarius Thomas still remains there. If they ship him off, then I think it's going to be best of luck. If Von Miller goes, bye everybody. Moving on after Von Miller, Landon Collins. Again, I'm prefacing these pipe dreams with that lower right third that you're going to see. Boom. I really don't see these things ever happening just because, typically we trade for, a Anthony Smith type player of, just some journeyman type of guy. But it does happen. And there's been I think the Packers front office get an unfair rap and not trading for certain players. They're known to be very fiscal and very frugal, especially with their draft picks. But it's been proven that, we wanted to trade for, we had an agreed upon trade for Tony Gonzalez. And at the last second, the Chiefs balked. And then that's how he ended up in Atlanta. We apparently were going to trade like a third-round pick, I think the story is. And then at the last second, they asked for a second-round pick. And then also there's the story of we actually put in an offer for Marshawn Lynch when he was with the Bills. And the Seahawks put in the same draft pick offers or after us, and they were just probably deemed to have a higher draft pick, so they took the Seahawks draft pick. And so it's not that we don't trade. I'm sure there's plenty of phone calls. I'm sure there's plenty of offers made. There's just a lot of times, another team who's trading is willing to either give up more, or if they're giving up the same thing, it's going to be of higher value. So that being said, Landon Collins, back to after my little tangent, Landon Collins, amazing safety for the New York Giants, and right now, fire sale. You already had Eli Apple go. You had Snacks Harrison go to the Lions. Eli Apple going to the New Orleans Saints. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Ogletree goes soon. I don't think Landon Collins goes. I think they're going to try and retain some building blocks, like an OBJ, obviously Barkley's not going anywhere, but like Landon Collins, you're going to want to have some building blocks for the future, and they're really going to fortify and try and get as many picks as they can to really rebuild that team post Eli. But I think, I wish that as much as I would love seeing the Bama connection, the Bama connection of Landon Collins and HaHa Clinton-Dix at free safety and strong safety, which we thoroughly need that that veteran presence at strong safety. I don't think it happens, but hopefully, again, I've been wrong before, and apparently we're in the market for Khalil Mack, so anything can happen. Moving on, my favorite pipe dream pick. I love Von Miller, don't get me wrong, but I think this one has the most realistic chance of it being a pipe dream pick. Chandler Jones, defensive end, outside linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals. Chandler's been playing amazing, man. I think he's had, close to 7 sacks this year already. I think I mentioned his teammate, Marcus Golden, earlier in the podcast. And I think Marcus Golden has more of the value in terms of being able to buy low and get him now and secure the future and go ahead and give him a fat contract, but nowhere near as fat as what Chandler would command, right? And I know Chandler was another one of those guys that apparently we were in on the trade for, and then the last second things just changed. Things change all the time with that stuff. Haven't you seen the movie Draft Day? Jeez, it's so realistic. But Chandler Jones, I think 7 sacks, tremendous amount of pressure. He's playing on a team that just obviously is not going to win. I think with Tyrann Mathieu leaving and Patrick Peterson apparently not demanding, but calling for a trade and releasing a statement saying that, I'm focused on being a Cardinal. I'm a Cardinal right now, which to me just still doesn't say anything. That just says I'm saying I'm a Cardinal right now. Hey, but I still want that trade. That's still on the table. I think that's what it's saying. But I would love Chandler Jones in this defense. I would love Chandler Jones, period, in any defense. But I think at outside linebacker, again, I know I keep talking about this. I just don't see any position where it doesn't help us. I think he was traded for a second-round pick from New England to Arizona. So I wonder what he'd be had for now. That being said, you have to deal with the looming contract that would come with it eventually. Again, I want to preface all these potential trade scenarios with, I know that some of them are already on their last year deal, and it might be just trading off a pick for a rental. But I'm going to go ahead and presume that if we trade for somebody, that there will be a deal worked out, unless it's just a journeyman guy and you're just rolling the die and hopefully it comes up not snake eyes. Moving on, Calais Campbell, former University of Miami Hurricane, super draft crush for me, by the way, former Arizona Cardinal, and now Jaguars defensive tackle. I mean, still a mammoth of a dude, still a phenomenal playmaker along the defensive line, tremendous play record, great run support. And I think that, being able to spell the loss of Muhammad Wilkerson was a lot more detrimental than a lot of people believe, because Patine's defense runs on that defensive line and that inside pressure. And I think with Mo Wilk going down, it really hurt us. I mean, you still have all pro caliber type of players with Mike Daniels, along with Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark, who's ascended to being one of the best defensive tackles, one of the best young defensive tackles in the league. But I think somebody like Calais, if you just add that mammoth in there, I think that could really transform our run support and our D-line in general. I think right now we have a lot of quick, bigger, stockier, darty type defensive tackles, like under tackles, where I think Calais would be like the guy Quentin Dials that we signed, but not Quentin Dials. So I think he would offer a tremendous amount of just playmaking ability along our defensive line. Moving on, Olivier Vernon, I don't see this happening to us, but I do see it happening. I think they might try and buy while he's hot now that he's finally healthy. He came off a big game 2 games ago. Had an all right game last game, but he's going to take a while to get back into it from post-injury. But Olivier Vernon, man, he's doing well. And I think that he'll be another one of those picks that they're trying to ship off. I really don't think this happens to us, mainly because I think that fat contract that came with him, I think he signed like $100 million contract. I could be wrong. But I know it was some absurd contract where it happened in free agency. Everybody went, what the bleep? But I'd be remiss in saying that he wouldn't add a tremendous amount of pass rush to us. I mean, the big thing is health-wise with him. And the same thing along with Perry, the same thing I said about one of the former, what's his name? One of the guys I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I can't remember. Oh, well, it's long gone forever. But yeah, I think, Shane Ray. I think he would add a tremendous amount of playmaking ability to our D-line. Our D-line. He can play defensive end. That's good because he is a defensive end. But he can also play outside linebacker. I wouldn't want him anywhere in coverage. Just get him off the field on that. But I think he would add a lot, and I think he wouldn't be had for as much as you think, especially with that commanding contract. I think the leverage would be in our favor. We're going to call this next segment Makes No Sense. Okay, just because these are the trades that you keep hearing about where it's just not going to happen. Like, let it go. And even I at one point was a fanboy of like, I hope this happens. But then I came to my senses after listening to such amazing Packer journalists like Aaron Nagler. First one, not Olivier Vernon. First one up, I would like to bring to attention Patrick Peterson. Man, it's not going to happen because, one, we don't need Patrick Peterson. I understand the knee-jerk reaction when Jair went down, when Kevin King went down, and you had players such as Tremont. I mean, House has already been on IR, but you had Tremont, you had Josh Jackson commanding a perimeter, and I mean, yeah, I get it at that point. But right now, with us going into the Rams weekend, almost full strength, I mean, we're going to have not just you're going to have Tremont, King on the outsides. You're going to be able to have Josh Jackson and Jair patrolling the insides. But you're also going to have the kicker of Brashad Breeland. His first taste since signing that big contract with Carolina, getting cut for failing the physical. We signed him for literally the vet minimum. And, I mean, to me, there's no reason to have Patrick Peterson. It would be nice. I mean, just like it would be nice to, if we just went out and traded for Von Miller. Then again, we also need Von Miller. But Patrick Peterson, it would be super nice because, I mean, he would add tremendous value, not just to the defensive backfield, leadership, all this stuff. He's great for the community, great for the team. Gives us a humongous star again. But he can also add return value. He's a phenomenal punt returner, as his days at LSU and as well as his earlier days. He's still doing it for the Arizona Cardinals. It's not going to happen. So people that, they hear Patrick Peterson demands a trade, just let it go. Let it go. Moving on to here. Yeah, not going to happen. I think that the Packers have 3 running backs. All of them are versatile. All of them have their different strengths. I've waxed poetic enough about. I think that Ty is the most versatile. I think that Aaron Jones is the best pure runner, and I think that Jamal Williams is the best combo of all. He's a great north and south runner. He'll pick up 3 yards every time if you need him to. Doesn't have a lot of wiggle, but he can make, he's great in pass pro. He can catch out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles. But there's nothing flashy too much about him. That being said, I was hoping initially when the Mac trade was going on that it was just all smoke and mirrors, and all of a sudden, boom, Le'Veon Bell was going to end up in our backfield. But now it doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense. I think he does get traded. There's no way I do. I think he upseats Connor. I don't think he comes back. Let me press that. I don't think he comes back to upseat Connor. I think he just leaves. I think that sour taste in his mouth for that organization it's too much. And I think he'll find his way eventually out of Le'Veonville, Pittsburgh. So I really don't see it happening. I would love, don't get me wrong, to have Bell right next to Rodgers in case, God forbid, Rodgers goes down again. We don't have a Huntley Mania 2.0 with this time featuring Deshaun Kaiser. So, I mean, that would be preferable not to have that. But if you did have that, it'd be nice to have a Bell cow to lean on. But I think you have too many backs, especially they want to see with what they have in Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones averaging a tremendous amount per carry and average. And then you also have guys like Ty, and you have guys like Jamal, and Ty's an insanely versatile weapon that you can keep on the roster. So if a wide receiver goes down, you can spell him and put him in the slot if you have to. He still has those capabilities. He's going to be a lot more stiff, but he still has those. Then you have just a good dependable back in Jamal Williams. So I think they have a lot to be excited about in the future for the Packers running backfield. So therein lies my trade targets for the Green Bay Packers, both the realistic, the not realistic pipe dream scenarios, and the just let it go, man. So again, thank you, everybody. My name is Will Thomas. I am your host for the Packers Select Podcast, your source for all Packers draft content and overall season coverage. That's right, I got that elevator pitch almost down pat. Welcome again. Thank you again for joining us for our first video episode. This concludes our Packers Select Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, at Packers Select. Go to our website at www.packerselect.com. That'll reroute you right now to our YouTube page until our website is firmly entrenched in the cloud database. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. See ya!